I've been asked many times throughout the years to make Battlefield content, and Battlefield is on schedule for what I deem a bit of a comeback soon. I mean, once DICE and EA finally reveal what's been leaked so many times already, I think even more people are going to get excited. Now, the revival of Battlefield is right around the corner, so I thought it was time. I thought we would shake things up a bit on the channel and dive into this franchise that I've always loved playing, but haven't had much opportunity to talk about. What is up, everybody? Jimmy or Chaos. Today, we're going to be talking about my picks for the 20 best assault rifles in Battlefield history. Now, keep in mind that basically all of the Battlefield games are extremely well balanced. So a lot of this list is going to be highly subjective, but you can let me know in the comments what your favorite AR in Battlefield is. And if you want to see more Battlefield top 10 and 20s, definitely give me ideas in the comments. Drop a like on the video, and let's get into it. At number 20, the AK-5C in Battlefield 2042. Now, the game got off to a rough start. We all know that. But it ended in a pretty solid enough place. There's some really good weapons to mess around with. The AK-5C, it was the perfect all-around type AR. It wasn't amazing at one thing, but it was above average in basically every situation. Yes, other more specialized rifles were going to beat it in certain specific situations, but if you wanted an AR that was going to get the job done no matter what and do it pretty well, the AK-5C was definitely the weapon for you. At number 19, the XM8 in Bad Company. How many of you actually played the first Bad Company? Raise your hand. The XM8 was often in the conversation for the best assault rifle because compared to others, it was a little harder to use, but it would also reward you for working a little harder. So you may have not been able to hit as many headshots as you would, or be able to kill quicker if you stayed on target, which was easier said than done in this game because it didn't run the best on the Xbox 360. Aiming was difficult, but it was a fun gun to use. I love giving Bad Company 1 shout-outs when I get the chance because it's super rare and it's a super underrated game. Plus, the XM8, it just looked awesome. It's one of the coolest looking assault rifles ever. At number 18, the Steyr AUG 77 in Bad Company 2. Now, this is also one of the coolest looking guns ever made, and the portrayal in Bad Company 2 was perfect. It could sometimes get a little hard to control, and it was definitely outperformed by some other guns we'll talk about later in the video, but this was a really fun rifle to use, had a solid time to kill at mid-range, very quick up close, although it did start struggling at longer range engagements, which is why I put it at number 18. Then again, some people insisted this gun was top 5 in Bad Company 2, so maybe it could have been higher. Like I said before, this list was pretty tough to make because of how well balanced a lot of these games are. At number 17, the Ribey Rolls 1918 in Battlefield 5. Now, compared to other ARs in the game, this thing, the Ribeye, well, I mean, it had the slowest fire rate, but also the lowest recoil. So the gun would sometimes get you in trouble if you tried to use it in close quarters combat, but you could absolutely laser people from long range, and that super low recoil made it great for conserving your ammo since you weren't going to be missing many shots. Wasn't everybody's cup of tea or first choice, I get that, but it does have a passionate following of mid and long range warriors who used its accuracy to its fullest potential. At number 16, the MTAR 21 in Battlefield 2042. This is also another one of the coolest looking guns in all of video games, and there have been some really great portrayals of it throughout gaming history. The version that showed up in Battlefield 2042 was a ton of fun to mess around with. It was great for more aggressive players who still wanted some power at mid-range. You basically treated it like a very bulky SMG, so you could get the most out of its close-range power and mid-range viability. It's not my favorite MTAR in gaming history, but it's still really good. I think it deserved a shout. At number 15, the SFAR Battlefield 2042. This is their version of the iconic SCAR rifle. Not sure why they didn't use the real name, but okay. It's really good, really strong. The base stats were definitely intimidating on their own, but the SFAR had an insane range of attachments available as well, which made it great for fine-tuning your playstyle. Now, in general, it was fantastic for mid-range combat. It was super viable at long range as well, but it also had a whole bunch of cheesy underbarrel additions that could make it even more powerful, especially if you were someone who liked blowing things up at a moment's notice. At number 14, let's go Ribey Rolls 1918 Optical in Battlefield 1. Now, in the real world, this was one of the first guns that could be called an assault rifle. I think it's one of the only guns in BF1 that you could even call an assault rifle since the game took place during the First World War. But you know what? I liked it. Simple, reliable, really good for tagging people from a distance and keeping the pressure on them. Battlefield 1 played really differently from most Battlefield games, and that's part of the reason why so many people loved it to this day. I do remember having some really good games with this gun. At number 13, the FAMAS in Battlefield 4. Now, longtime viewers of my channel know I love the FAMAS in basically every game where it's an option. And no, the Battlefield 4 version of the FAMAS was not going to erase my memories with the classic Black Ops 1 version, but it did scratch the same itch. The fire rate was nuts. We completely erased people up close, but it became a little difficult to use at those longer ranges. On smaller maps or maps with close range combat, the FAMAS shined. It was amazing. It was one of the most satisfying guns in the game to use, even if it wasn't quite as versatile as some of the other ARs in Battlefield 4. At number 12, the Sturmgewehr 1.5 in Battlefield 5. This was your starting AR in the assault class of Battlefield 5, and despite having a very difficult name to pronounce, it did have some really good stats. It kept you competitive in most scenarios. In fact, this thing had a pretty amazing close range time to kill for an assault rifle, and even though it was harder to control during mid and long range combat, it would greatly reward you for staying on target. If you were a more aggressive player using the assault class, this thing was the excellent choice because of that super fast close range TTK. At number 11, the STG-44 in Battlefield 5. It's hard not to pick this thing up again. It really is. It's an iconic weapon. You know exactly what you're getting. Compared to the previous gun we talked about, the STG is a lot easier to control during sustained fire, which that made it a lot better during mid and long range combat. So I guess if you want a more aggressive assault rifle, you could go with the 1.5. But if you want something that's going to be more versatile, isn't going to fight you so much when you back away from your target, I think the STG is definitely the way to go. Now we crack into the top 10. Can't believe I'm putting an F2000 in the top 10 of anything on a positive list. At number 10, the F2000 in Battlefield 4. I love trashing the F2000 in the other first-person shooters, specifically the original Modern Warfare 2, but the Battlefield 4 version was actually kind of nuts if you could manage and control that recoil. Fire rate was really high, of course, and the base damage was a little low, but if you could stay on target, the time to kill with this rifle was absolutely ridiculous. And on top of all that, it sounded crazy. The game was just so good. At number 9, the M416 in Battlefield 4. One of the most popular guns in Battlefield 4 because it was simple. You wouldn't be surprised by it, but you would also get solid results and it wouldn't fight you during combat, which is what you want from a weapon in a Battlefield game. Solid stats all around, super fun to use, no notes. We're going to move on. At number 8, the Ace 23 in Battlefield 4. Maybe this is a hot take because I know there was a lot of debate back in the day between the M416 and the Ace 23, but I always thought the Ace was slightly better. Fire rate, a little higher, magazine a little bigger, and in return, slightly less accurate and seemed to hit slightly weaker. Maybe that was all in my head. Maybe it was placebo effect. I don't know. I could really go either way on these two guns, but at this very moment, I think the Ace 23 was a little better. I'm sure somebody's going to argue with me in the comments, but maybe somebody comes to defend me too. I don't know. At number 7, the AN-94 in Bad Company 2. Now, the AN-94 has been getting more popular in video games because of the popular portrayals in games like Black Ops 2 and the Bad Company subseries. The BC2 version of this gun was amazing, featured the iconic 2-round hyperburst that the weapon is known for. So if you could stay on target with those 2 shots, you would be rewarded with some of the best TTK values in the entire game, and it made it really good for ranged engagement. You could erase people from very, very far distances and they wouldn't even know what hit them. At number 6, the VHX-D3 in Battlefield 2042. What a name. This gun was so powerful that was added to the game. The community actually started to get fed up with it, which wasn't exactly what Battlefield 2042 needed at that time. I mean, this game, it already had enough of a rough start, so when a DLC gun's added to the mix, it completely dominates the AR category. Let's just say it left the community not happy. The VHX, it was absolutely bonkers. Had to be nerfed several times before DICE felt it was in a balanced place. It's still a little unclear if this DLC gun was made overpowered on purpose or not, but it was absolutely a top 3 weapon when it first added to the game. I think it deserves to be at the number 6 spot on this list. It could have been higher if it was never patched. Now we arrive at the top 5. The G36E in Battlefield 2. We're going way back. The G36 family of rifles is iconic, but the E variant in BF2 was a salt generator. Unlike other G36 rifles in most video games, the E was a semi-auto or 3-round burst rifle, which made it a bit more of a precision weapon, but it also had some insane damage output to it, to the point that a lot of people were complaining on forums back in the day that it needed to be nerfed. It could erase people from insane distances. It was really easy to use despite not being fully automatic, and I think it's a good way to kick off the top 5. At number 4, the M416 in Battlefield 3. Statistically speaking, The M416 was actually surpassed by one other rifle in Battlefield 3, which we'll talk about here in a minute, but it still had a super loyal fan club. There's so many things that it had going for it. It was easy to control, viable stats, handling was silky smooth. You knew exactly what you were getting with the damage stats, and with how easy it was to control, it was just really hard to put it down once you got started. I would just say in 2 words, super reliable. At number 3, the M416 in Battlefield Hardline. Now, I know a lot of you skipped Hardline because the multiplayer was largely seen as this lame copy-paste of BF4, but did you know that the M416 actually got a buff in the game? The Hardline version of it actually shoots faster than usual, but still maintains its trademark accuracy and reliable damage stats. So I don't know whose idea it was to take this already really good weapon and make it even better, but it definitely left an impact. I think this is the best version we've seen of the gun to this date in the Battlefield franchise. I mean, even if you skip the game, this is a top 3 assault rifle. At number 2, the AEK 971 in Battlefield 4. Excellent rate of fire. In fact, this was the second fastest firing assault rifle in the entire game, and there was a lot of rifles. Despite that high fire rate, it was still super easy to stay on target. Usually when an assault rifle fires quickly, you have to deal with recoil or even a long reload animation, but for some reason, the AEK had a very quick reload and super low recoil despite the insane fire rate. You could even throw on some attachments to make it even more of a bullet hose laser beam. It was one of the best guns in the entire game. I'm going to say it was the second best assault rifle in the entire franchise. And at number 1 today, my pick for the best assault rifle in the Battlefield franchise, the M16A3 in Battlefield 3. A lot of people thought this gun was totally overpowered because of how hard it was spammed, and while I don't think it was overpowered, I do think it was overall the best assault rifle in the franchise. The damage wasn't crazy, but it was reliable and consistent. It was so easy to use that anybody could pick it up, point it at someone, shred right through them without missing a shot. So many people were calling it for it to be nerfed because it killed the variety of the game, but I mean, really, what was there to nerf? It's not that the M16 was overpowered, it's just really easy to use and really consistent. I don't think any other assault rifle has been quite so dominant in Battlefield history without being blatantly overpowered, and for that, I'm going to give it the top spot. It was spammed for good reason. It was just really, really, really reliable. So there you have it. Give me a couple rifles that should have made it that didn't. If you guys want more Battlefield content, you need to let me know in the comment section. I'll see you soon.